Hello everybody, you're here because you think you need a quick reminder about how Roman numbers work. So we've turned this into an extra bit rather than interrupting the flow of the main discussion. So here goes. If I can use the full width of this wondrous line printer paper, I'm going to put up basically what you could say is almost a logarithmic scale. At the left-hand end of your Roman number, as again the vast majority of you will know, you can have thousands, which is the letter M. And if you want 2,000, it's MM, 3,000, MMM, and so on. However, the next stage down on this, and it is a logarithmic base 10 scale, it's just that the notation is very different from Arabic notation, which is much easier to use. I sometimes think my top nightmare would be being forced to do number theory using Roman numbers. Ugh. Anyway, the next, if you like, level down, of course, is the hundreds. Next level down from that is the tens, and the final bottommost level is the units. Now, I'm sure lots of you will know, just M on its own is a valid Roman number. It's 1,000. C on its own is a valid Roman number. It's 100. One of the things that was introduced back in Roman times was the idea that these are quite big ranges, and wouldn't it be a good idea to have a midpoint in the range, as it were, to help you shorten the numbers. Let me show you what I mean. If inside here I say, well, you're going from thousands down to single hundred there, how about putting in the middle an option for 500, which is D. Equally, between hundreds and tens, what's halfway between 100 and tens? What's the halfway point in the tens? 50. It's 50. And of course that's L. And the halfway point between 10 and 1 is 5. So there's another special, as it were, shortcut symbol there, which helps a lot. So in other words, if you want to say 5, you can just say V. You don't have to say I, 5 of them. Then, again, back in early Rome somewhere, they had the idea that a very useful abbreviation would be if only you could use these numbers not in a right-going sequence and successively adding, but just occasionally do them the wrong way round, as it were, as an abbreviation. So I would ask you to consider 4. You can do that in Roman numbers as 4 ones. I have a clock in my lounge and it's full of Roman numbers all the way around, and it does 4 as 4 ones. But it is also an option to do 4 as IV. Now that's weird because there's the ones preceding the bigger unit, which is the V. But the rule is if you say IV, you mean 1 less than V, which is 5. 1 less than 5 is 4. So that's the way to do 4 in a shorter width. Easier for typesetting than doing 4 ones maybe. But also, it's perfectly agreeable and much more commonly used even than IV, is to say, I don't want to do 9 as V5, then I, although logically it's okay. No, it's pretty well commonplace that you use the something less than something else rule here. You say, is 1 less than 10? Now this applies all the way through these ranges. You can always prepend something from the next lower range in order to do this something less than. Example is the best thing. Let's take the X. We've seen we can do IX. Okay, what about then with the hundreds? Can we say XC? We certainly can. That's 10 less than 100, which is 90. Can we say, can we even take a midpoint Roman digit? Could we say XL? Yes, we can. It's 10 less than 50. So that's 40. And right up here, with the M's and with the D's, you can do CD, you can do CM, So that's 100 less than 500, which is 400. This is 100 less than 1,000, which is 900. So all of those are perfectly permitted. But if you go to this wonderful bulletin board, chat room, whatever it is, Stack Overflow, there is a huge amount of talk now about regular expressions for Roman numbers. I mean, I may feel that I invented it back in 1978, but of course there wasn't, I wouldn't be the first to do it, somebody at Bell Labs would have done it. But you've got to remember that when I started in this, back in the late 1970s, there was no internet to let everybody know. No, hey guys, I just did Roman numbers.
Well, to be fair, there was an internet, right?
There was an internet, there wasn't a World Wide Web. I could not start bragging about what I'd done. If I wanted to tell somebody, back in the late 70s, I couldn't even use email to tell people. We were on the brink of getting it going in the early 1980s. So it was old-fashioned telegrams or telephone calls. It's hard to believe now. So when I came to look at what I'd set as course assignments in the 1970s on this, I got to thinking, well, yeah, you know, it was much more of a closed world. So coming back now 30, 40 years later and looking at some of the questions I set, well, I'm coming back to all of this experience I gave myself here. And one of the things I also should point out in all of this is you might say, well, there seems to be a rule here that you can only prepend the next lower range. Is that right? Well, I think that is the rule. Somebody on Stack Overflow said, well, I want to do 999, but I want to do it as I am. 1 less than 1,000, and of course strictly that's against the rules, you know. But then you get some Latin scholars coming on saying, hey, do what you want. They were completely all over the place, the Romans. Oh, you want to do that, that's all right. And then somebody comes in and says, no, you're wrong, you're completely wrong. They were rigorous about the way they did it. So I'll leave it with you to discuss whether you think I am ought to be valid for 999. I think somebody in the end came out and said, you computer scientists aren't concerned with what the Romans really did. All you want is cute little exercises to set as course assignments. Well, if that was said, that's absolutely true. So I'm going to stick with these fairly rigorous rules and see where we get to. Well, I hope that's taught you enough about Roman numerals to bring you back to the days in high school when you were forced to work these out for yourself. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. But do go back to the main story now.